So over the month of Tishrei, right, the month that we're just coming out of, we've done so much. And the letters Tishrei actually has to do with the letters Taf, Shin, and Resh, which are the last three letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And it goes into Yud, which is basically this inceptional point of Chachma that draws down the blessings, right? So it goes from below to above, that we're yearning, that we're asking, right? It comes from below to above, that we're petitioning, we're asking. And that extends into the month that we're in right now, which is the month of Cheshvan. The month of Cheshvan, just a couple of concepts on this month, is characterized by the tribe of Menashe. Menashe was one of the two children of Yosef that were, that were part of the tribes, right? And Menashe stands for the letters Neshama, which means soul. And that during this month, the month of Scorpio, the month of Menashe, we tap into the power of our soul, right? It's not something that we could point out and could say, oh, we're celebrating this, we're doing that. In fact, it's the only month on the Hebrew calendar that has no holidays in it, right? And that's why it's called Mar Cheshvan. It's called bitter Cheshvan. But in truth, Mar could also be spelled Ram, exalted, right? Where we take this bitterness, we could take this challenge or this angst that we're feeling inside, the turmoil that we're feeling inside, and let it out, right? Let it out call out to Hashem, speak to God, right? And even scream out, right? Hashem, like this happened to me today, it's going out into nature, like we opened up over there with Rabbi Nachman of going out into nature, and you're just there, and you could just like let loose, right? Where you don't hold it in. And the letters Neshama is also the letters Shmona, is the letters for 8, which is above nature, right? So the letters for Menashe also spells out Neshama, soul, but also spells out Shmona, 8. And in fact, it's right in between the holiday of Sukkot, which is 8 days, and Shmini Atzeret is 8, and it takes us to Chanukah, which is also 8, right? So it's this transitional period that we're in, that we're going to see the light, but in the meantime, we kind of don't see anything, right? And during that transitional time that we don't see the results, we don't realize what is actually happening, what we're actually the work which is accomplished, because it's not something that we could measure, because it comes from a deep place that we don't even know what we're accomplishing when we're in this place of uncertainty. We're in this place of difficulty. We're in this place of work, that we're doing this inner work that feels bitter, right? It feels like there's nothing that's being accomplished. But Rabbi Natan says, right over there, we just read, he says that don't think that nothing is happening. You should recognize that we're mentioning that we have this belief that God is omnipresent, that God could do anything, that even if I'm in a predicament, that I find myself in a place that seemingly I'm lacking in rain, in whatever physical, it could be the physical rain, right, that we're talking about, or it could be one of the three aspects, the three dimensions of what rain represents, right, in my life, right? I'm lacking this aspect in my life. To recognize that anything could happen, and that during this time period, I'm building my vessel to be able to contain the incredible manifestation, the Gashmi, right? Like Liti was mentioning, Geshem from the word Gashmi, material, is going to happen, is going to come down. But I have to believe it, right? I have to believe it. I have to believe that my prayers, that my connection, that my yearning, that my prayers, that my tears, right, are able to go into the atmosphere and to elicit, you know, the rain to come down, because that's where rain comes from. It comes from below to above, right? It comes from us, right? The cycle comes from below to above, the cycle of rain, right? Like we learned in elementary school, right? It comes from below. We're causing the rain. The earth is drawing down its needs to be fulfilled, to be able to draw down what it's lacking. And this period of time is the period of time of harnessing our our vessel. So in order to harness that vessel, right, it's very important to bear in mind what we're actually yearning for, what we want, and what we believe is possible for us in our lives, right? Because if we don't believe it's possible for us and we're in a desperate, hopeless place, which we often find ourselves in because of, life and circumstances, we're like, we're closed off and this is going on and that's going on. And circumstances in life have brought me to a place of being hopeless, right? To recognize that, like Rabbi Nachman says, I feel like this a lot of Rabbi Nachman today, ein yush ba'olam klal, that there's no being desperate in the world at all. Ein yush ba'olam klal, right? So there's a beautiful teaching on this because there's a concept that is brought out by Rabbi Ishmael, that we actually mention this every single day as well, that there's the general klal, ufrat, uklal, that there's a way of interpretation of Torah, of verses in the Torah, that's something which is in a general frame, and then it's got a specific usage of it. So we know that the general applies to the specific, but then the specific then, prat uklal, applies back to the general, right? And it's a Talmudic way of learning that there's the klal, ufrat, uklal, right? And within the general, there's the specific. And within the specific, there's also the truth, which is found within the general, which is found within the collective. So there's the collective truth, there's a collective omnipresence, right, which is all inclusive. And then there's my prat, there's my needs, and my needs are part of the general collective of the entire world, since everything is really one. So when it says ein yeush ba'olam klal, when there's no giving up. In other words, there's no yeush. Yeush means I'm hopeless. That's what it means. Like, I'm hopeless. The reason why sometimes we may feel hopeless is because we're not recognizing the klal, the general, right? The omnipresence of everything, right? We're looking at life, we're looking at situations in a tunnel vision. We're like, I'm in this situation and it will always be this way, right? And I'm stuck in this place. But the reason why we're stuck in this place of being is because we're not seeing the greater macro picture, right? Just like if, we're down here and we're looking at, at the view, as we're walking in the place that we're in, we're seeing very little of the area. Whereas if we would go up on an airplane or a helicopter or a high altitude we take a hike to a tall mountain, then we'd be able to see the entire panorama. And we'd see where we were taking a walk was just a tiny little, section of the entire beautiful, you know, view of everything around it. And so the reason why we don't start asking for rain right away is because we wouldn't truly ask for rain. We would just ask for rain from a place of of smallness, of where we're asking it from. And we're saying, God, just get me out of this like small particular place that I'm in. And I want rain because I don't want to be in this place any longer. And that's coming from a lack of faith, which faith or emunah really comes from a place of seeing the general, seeing how everything is interconnected, how there's a vastness in the world, how we're a part of this great, incredible tapestry. That although things are rough right now, in the prat, we could say, that's that's an illusion to really what's going on. So we need to build our vessel. And what's building the vessel? The vessel is going to a place of the collective. So during this month, we don't have any holidays during this month because we're saying don't celebrate this or celebrate that. Although it's great to celebrate, we love celebrations, right? And there's so many holidays the Jewish people have that were like, every other week or there's another holiday, you know. But during this month, let's not get distracted, not even by holidays, right? As great as they are, because the holidays will still keep us in a very micro vision and will take away from what is possible. So the first month after the holiday season, the month of Tishrei, is this month of Cheshvan. Although for many people they're like, oh, it's such a rough month, and historically it's been a rough month. Nevertheless, this month it's brought out that this month is the month that the third temple is going to materialize. Tribe of the month, Menashe, corresponds to Neshama, to soul, where from the level of soul of our godly soul, we're limitless, right? From the place of our animal soul, we're limited. We're limited by this predicament, by this situation, by, what's going on in current events, what's going on. But all of that will pass. We're limited by our thoughts, we're limited by our emotions, but all of that is going to pass.